In this video, I'm going to be talking about my experiences with lower back pain and what recovery was like. So if you're into that sort of thing, watch this video. So this question comes from @JamesW1698. And they said, have you ever dealt with lower back problems in yourself or a client? What was the recovery like? Yes, back pain is very common when it comes to training. And I believe that a lot of times when people are experiencing back pain, unless it could be traced back to a specific injury or they were born like that, chances are most of the time it comes from weak abs or weak glutes. Now, when it comes to lower back pain, when it comes to treating it, I'm not the guy to do that, even though some of the strength routines I've put some of my clients through have helped people significantly overcome back pain. You know, like I had one guy that was hit by a bus back in the 80s when he was a cop. And after assessing him, I found out that kettlebell swings was something he could safely do. And it was like basically a miracle worker. Got him back on skis for the first time in like 20, 30 years. He was able to roll around with his grandkids. It was amazing, and it came from not just strengthening the lower back, but also coordinating the abs and the glutes to work as one unit in order to support the spine, as well as all of the other things that he was doing to help reduce inflammation. Now, for myself, a while back, I was testing out a training method where you would test various exercises against a range of motion tests, which was done by touching your toes. And when I was putting myself through this protocol and just trying to understand, I said, I'm just going to try to do it as strictly as I can and trust the process as best I can. Now, for whatever reason, my gut instinct was telling me not to deadlift that day. But according to this protocol, I was supposed to deadlift. So ignoring my gut instinct, I went for it anyways. And ended up putting my back into some pretty severe spasms. Really bad. At that time, my daughter was probably about 2 weeks old, and she was born small. At this point, she was like maybe 6 or 7 pounds. And I remember she's in the bassinet by my bed, and I'm laying in bed, and I'm like, you know, it's not so bad as long as I don't move a single muscle. She starts stirring in her bassinet, and I look over, I'm like, oh boy, she pooped herself. But I had to carry her from the bassinet into her bedroom where her changing table was, and carrying around my 7-pound infant daughter was excruciating. That was awful. The next morning, I went to a chiropractor, and I had tried heating it and stuff like that, and he told me heat was possibly the worst thing I could do for it. He prescribed ice in order to reduce the inflammation. Now, it went away relatively quickly being treated by him, the chiropractor. I did have a recurrence of it one day when I was just pacing around before a show. I could feel that my back was starting to go into spasm, just from walking around. And I gutted it through the show, and I was able to get through okay. But afterwards, you know, like I had to prop myself up on the stage because these kids are viewing me like Superman at this moment. But I felt like I was probably 90 years old. But I told the people that had hired me, I remember it was the Police Athletic League, and they were able to get a bag of ice from the kitchen, and I just sat on that on my drive home. And by the time I got home, it felt much, 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 much better. And recently, I was talking with someone that I refer many of the people that I train who get musculoskeletal injuries. We like to call him the witch doctor because he has a very unique approach to these things. And when I was talking to him, he had said that if I was being treated by him, he would have been able to get me deadlifting that day, which would have been important for signaling to my central nervous system that this is not a threat, but that certain things had to happen first. Recently, and I did go, what did I go to him? Oh, I had gone to him for hip pain originally. Now, like when I say it's fairly unique, it's actually, his mentor was a world-renowned movement whiz who I happen to know as Dr. Kathy Dooley, and we had been partners at a workshop that happened many years ago. So, and he was basically her top student and had traveled the world. So it's like a fairly unique thing. The only other person that I know that has this approach is her. So, where was I going with this? Oh, recently, he came into my gym and I was having lower back tightness. It wasn't pain at this point, but I told him, I'm like, hey, doc, I'm having lower back tightness. I thought it would have gone away by now. It's been there since Monday. It was Wednesday at this point. I said, what do I do? And he put me through a couple quick tests where I lifted my legs, and he found out that there was a leg length discrepancy in my legs. Well, yeah, if it's a leg length discrepancy, it's always going to be in the legs. But he said it's causing my hip to be out of balance. So he's like, what you do, take a staggered stance and twist, breathe in a couple times, breathe out a couple times, and then reach back, do the same thing. And that would reduce the tension in my lower back, and it worked. Hence why we call him the witch doctor, because it's like it's voodoo, even though it is in fact rooted in science. What he was doing is activating certain muscles and getting certain muscles to turn off that weren't supposed to be on. So that was fairly quick. Now, if you are having lower back pain, what I would recommend is getting it checked out. Now, if you don't have access to someone like Dr. Kathy Dooley or the witch doctor, I would recommend getting checked out by a chiropractor, one who is reputable, because when it comes to alternative medicine, there are some very good ones, but there are also some not so good ones. I've heard some chiropractors saying some crazy things before, and then there's other ones that are like truly legit. A chiropractor was my preferred ones for musculoskeletal injuries prior to the witch doctor walking through my doors. Now it's the witch doctor. So I would recommend getting checked out if that's something that you're experiencing. But in general, if you can strengthen your glutes, you can strengthen your lower back, and you can strengthen your abs, assuming that your exercise technique is solid and that your progressions aren't overly aggressive, it can go a long way to preventing lower back pain. Because, like one of the central philosophies that I have is that, one of the things that I say is injuries happen when the tissues are subjected to something that they are not prepared for. And you prepare for it through training. Weak things break easily, so strength can be the cure in some cases, but that would be up to a medical person to decide. But strength training can also be the prevention. Weak things break easily. So anyways, I hope that answers your question. If anybody else has any questions, drop it in the comments below, and I'll try to get back to you with your very own video answering your question. But if you like this video, let me know by hitting that like button. If you want to see more of this sort of thing, or you want to see the chronicles from my various performances, subscribe to the channel. If you think anybody should see this, please share it with them. This YouTube thing isn't rocket science. And if you want to support the channel, you could do a super thanks thing that helps the channel out. You can also purchase a copy of my book. This chronicles my story, that learning from my various mentors, and even Dr. Kathy Dooley is in this book, so you can see like what my history is with her. I'll show you a picture. She's right there. There's another one of her right there as well. And there she is bending steel in my old place, which has burned down. So, links are in the description below. Thank you for watching, and until next time, please stay happy, healthy, and strong. Eric Moss, over and out.